I certainly am, and the parts. It's not like I just pick and choose from parts.
It is like that, actually.
Well, I disagree. I'm going from the basically the authorized version of the Bible, let's say, and some things though that came later. Some of the writings that came later are a little iffy, and so I can't make a whole opinion and disregard the rest of the preponderance of evidence because of that. So, but from the preponderance of evidence in the New Testament and the rest of the Old Testament, I can safely come to the conclusion that God has no plans to burn his children for eons. And
well, now that depends on how you define his children, because within the biblical context, his children only qualifies as those people who are saved, not those who are going to be burned.
Well, the ones that do end up in a place where it's talked about as being a fire, lake of fire, are going to be destroyed right away. So it looks like there's going to be certain beings that are destroyed right away. A lot of this comes from the fact that people and have borrowed ideas from the Greeks that we have some sort of immortal soul. So then
so we don't have an immortal soul. Is that we don't have an immortal soul?
No, and the Bible is not saying that. People have put that into the Bible. A soul is just a living being. So
okay, so are there people in heaven now?
Yeah.
And yet their bodies and everything are decomposing underground. So what's in heaven?
Well, they're spiritual beings.
Oh,
they're made into spiritual beings, but
isn't that the soul thing that you just said we don't have?
No, a soul is in the Bible is a living being. If you start out in the beginning to the end, and you look at every place where it says soul, it's always referring to a living being. Fishes were souls, some animals were souls. So a soul is just a living being which can die. And
okay, so that's not what we meant when we said soul earlier. So there is an eternal spiritual being.
There are spirit beings, and there are living, breathing, fleshly beings. So.
Okay, and yet,
is it kind of like a symbiotic relationship type thing where they inhabit the same space on Earth, and then when
I'm a
the flesh being dies and the spiritual being continues?
The saints of the first century were taken to heaven.
So, I mean, is there a spiritual being in me right now?
No, that's like you're saying is trying to get back to the whole idea of a mortal soul. There's no spiritual being.
So if I'm entirely a physical being...
I'm sorry?
I'm a physical being.
Yes.
And there's no spiritual being here.
Right.
Okay. Then if only spiritual beings go to heaven, then I can't go to heaven.
Not right now.
Ever.
No. You could be changed.
No. Stop.
Yeah.
I'm a physical being.
Right.
There is no spiritual being here. And
no,
it's
there is
only
no
a spiritual
being here. But you could be changed into a spiritual being, like Paul talked about changing a twinkling of an eye.
Changed into a spiritual being?
Yes.
When does that happen?
Well, for those men in the first century, it happened when Jesus returned for them, probably around the year 70, when the temple was destroyed. And so those men were changed, just like Paul said, from physical beings to spiritual beings.
But how is that me? That's what I'm asking.
Well,
hang on. Let me finish.
They had the Holy
Stan,
Spirit.
hang on. We're going to give you all kinds of time.
Yeah.
I just want to... How is that me? Because to me, as a physical being, everything that makes up what I am is physical and is a component, particularly, of my brain. So am I like downloaded into a spiritual body? Are my thoughts and consciousness downloaded into a spiritual body? Because if later I'm just turned into a spiritual being, how is that still me? Because there's no bridge between the two of them. They're separate entities. So I'm just curious as to how I become this spiritual being.
Well, I'm not privy to all the details there.
Then
and
why
how
would you
that
think
exactly
that it
happens. All I know is that that's what happened to the saints in the first century who had the Holy Spirit.
How do you know that's what happened?
Well, I'm going by the biblical record.
The biblical record that you pick and choose from?
Well, that I study very hard to try and understand.
Okay.
So,
what makes you think you've got it right?
Well, I can't say I got everything right. I
What makes you think you got any of it right?
Sometimes I'm wrong and sometimes I'm right, but I do the best I can there, and I sometimes change my views as I learn new things. So not everything's going to be set in stone. If I learn something different, I would change my views on it. But that's right now where I'm at with it. That certainly the things that happened to those men in the first century. When I read the Bible, I look at things being specifically for those people. So when Jesus said to go and preach to all nations, he meant to those guys, not to us. And when he told them that he'd return for them and people would still be alive when he returned, that he was speaking to, I believe that's what Jesus said, and that he came back and took those men. And so after everyone left...
So you believe he's already come back once in addition in order to fulfill what he said, that some of you standing here will still be alive or will not see death until these things come to pass?
He came back
around 70
AD.
So what you're saying is that... Around when?
70 A.D., when the temple was destroyed.
So in the time period between his death, which, first of all, we don't have any reason to think that any of this happened, but his death in 30-ish, 33 to 70, he fulfilled all those obligations. So the gospel was preached in all nations in that period of time?
The known world, yeah. The known world. Those people,
Doesn't God know the whole world?
Well, the world for those men was the...
So God's only concerned about saving the world as those men knew it and screw the rest of them?
Well, there was a kind of first fruits bunch, a pioneer group, if you have there, not everyone in the whole world, of course, but just that general area of the known world that they were in at the time is how one would understand that. Those men were just... generally speaking, locally through the Mediterranean area and spread out from Jerusalem outward. So it was the known world for them. So that statement, go and preach to all nations, all people, was applicable, and you can understand it to say that just those particular nations that were in that area at the time. So, and then after Jesus came for those people, there was no one left to have the Holy Spirit. And so everyone went to heaven with Jesus, and that's where they are. But there's going to be another group later on in the future that is a bigger group, so many can't be counted, called the Great Multitude. And they're going to have a similar experience where that group is going to be changed into spirit beings sometime in the future.
It's an interesting story. I just don't see how you can justify any of it. Or what reason you have for thinking any of this is true in the first place? It seems like
I studied the Bible. I look in detail at what it says, and I kind of reject.
I understand that, Stan, but I could do the same thing with any book.
Yeah, the problem here kind of comes up as, how do you know that what you're reading and your interpretation of it is the correct one, and it's not Satan, the devil, demons having a field day with you and your interpretations? Matt obviously has a very different interpretation of these kind of things than you do.
Well,
who's to say that he's not got the right one and Satan's been having a field day with you, or the other way around?
You do the best you can there, and it's good if it makes sense. It makes a lot more sense to me that God would give everyone a chance for one, and I'd always...
So you go into it with a preconception about what you think the nature of God is, and you read that into whatever you're reading in order to make it say what you want it to say.
No,
yes.
I look
That's
at
what
it
you
in
said.
a
I
way
just phrased it differently.
Objective and analyze it as best I can so that I can make sense
your
of it all.
preconception. My question is, ignoring interpretation entirely, you're making assumptions about the truth of what's in the book, that anything in the book actually happened. And I'm curious as to why you would think that anything in that book actually happened.
Well, I think that that gets down to the central question of whether you believe that book is, even with its problems of translations and other things that you have with it, is a historical record of what happened to those men. And so I have
and you believe it is?
That's so.
Okay,
so that
why?
makes from my perspective, I look at it, okay, if these things happen, how was it for those men? And, I also look at it as when I read it, I don't apply the things to myself today that was said to men 2,000 years ago.
So from your perspective, you judge the Bible to be historically accurate. Because this is about the third or fourth time we've had this little piece of discussion.
Yeah.
And every time I ask you what reason you have for thinking it is, you can't provide no evidence. You just say, from your perspective, you believe that it's true.
Well, just like from your perspective, you don't believe it's true.
Yes, but my perspective, no. My perspective is based on the fact that there's insufficient evidence to justify the claim that it's true. You don't get to say that we have equally valid yet opposing viewpoints.
Well,
you're accepting something as true, and the only justification that should be used to accept something as true is evidence to support the claim.
Right.
Not a lack of evidence to prove it wrong, not a personal viewpoint about your preconceptions of what may or may not be true about it.
Well, I have no reason to believe it is not true.
You're just not getting it, Stan. I just, not 10 seconds before, said that the burden of proof has nothing to do with evidence that proves it wrong. And we got actually full lines, and you've been on for a while, so I thank you for calling, but we're going to move on to some others now. You can't, I don't know how that gets missed. If you've got a claim...
I haven't seen anything to prove me wrong, so...
Yeah. I haven't seen anything that proves that there's not leprechauns, stealing socks out of my dryer. Doesn't mean that's what's happening.